There's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to it is who's a humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord, yeah, yeah.
Okay, hey, welcome to everybody. This is David Fuquay with another edition of New South Christians, and we have a good one today. I met this young man just a couple of times, met him the other day outside my office, getting ready to talk to Dr. Burton, and struck up a great conversation. I got to do a little disclaimer. His last name is Fuquay, which happens to be mine also, but as far as I know, we are not related, other than maybe down the road of life or just as shared believers, maybe non-believers, not sure. So anyway, we have Caleb Fuquay with us today. He's agreed to be on, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So Caleb, you just want to introduce yourself, share a couple things?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name's Caleb. I've been going to Vol State now. This is my first semester. Enjoying everything so far. Want to major in psychology. Kind of do something with that, with like counseling for like teenagers. Yeah.
Oh, well, this is perfect venue for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, one of the things I do, because you've shared a few things with me, so I'm going to start off a little different. We call it New South Christians, partially because there's 100 people moving to Nashville every day. A lot of them, are here like you, been raised in this area all your life, and we associate the South with the Bible Belt, more of a conservative, older view. But all these young people like yourself, either from here or coming in, have a lot of different views. And, obviously Gen Z is what we're talking about. So what I'm going to do is just talk about some different things, and you just share your opinion or why you think this or that, and we'll have a good time. The first one I was going to do is I'm just going to read some statistics to you, and
Okay.
This really blows me away.
Okay.
It has to do with depression, addiction, hopelessness.
Okay.
Okay, so it's 42% of your generation battles depression and hopelessness. 3 times likely to consider suicide. 1 out of 2 knows someone battling depression. Those numbers are off the chart, by the way. And 1 in 5 knows someone who died from suicide. Now, in the past episodes we've done, a lot of people have pointed to COVID or the Great Recession, the Great Depression. A lot of people thought it should have been back before that. So when you hear all those statistics, et cetera, what do you think?
I definitely believe it.
Yeah.
I definitely do. Just from personal experience, I mean, it's bad. I mean, you go through a lot of things that you don't expect to go through, and
Right.
it just causes, some issues, and you can try to get help. You can go to therapy, and you can do a lot of things for it. You can have a lot of positive reinforcement in your life, but sometimes it only goes so far, and, sometimes days are just worse than others.
Right. Well, we talked a little bit before we went on, talking about that you're also considered the loneliest generation. Why? It doesn't make sense to me, because I see you with all this fabulous technology. You can stay connected. You can you can voice your opinion in ways my generation never could, but then you're lonely.
I don't know if it's just about like the whole not connecting part. I think we definitely do feel a connection, whether it be with a partner we have or friends, family. It's not the necessarily like staying connected part. It's just knowing if it's real love. Because when you're trying to stay connected with someone, like they can send you a text message back and you
Right.
won't see their emotion or anything like that. They could say something nice, but in reality be saying something different or thinking something
So
different.
it's totally different between voice and connection through technology as opposed to face-to-face?
Yeah, we honestly we like face-to-face. I feel like a lot of us we're in like broken families where, like, for me, I live with my grandparents. So like, my parents are divorced. It's very rare nowadays that you see adults or like kids or whatever with parents who are still married.
Right.
It's very rare.
Yeah, I looked at some statistics last couple of weeks about the number of people in single family, head of household. They were talking about people that share dinner and say grace together. Well, the problem is so many people are in a one-parent household, and that one parent's out trying to make a living. So in most cases, you don't eat together anyway to even share the idea of grace. But I want to go back to the suicide thing, because that's the more intense subject based on what we've shared. And I don't know how much you want to share about that, but how do you, I mean, how honest do I want to be? I guess I'm asking you to be honest, so I'm going to be honest. I've had low points in my life. I'm not going to say that the thought of suicide has never crept up in my mind, but then there's a spiritual side of me that thinks about, well, I'm not going to make heaven if I'm committing suicide. But then why would I feel that way anyway? Because if you looked at me on the outside, you would think, well, this guy's got everything. Why would he even contemplate it? But during COVID, I got to tell you, I was climbing the walls.
That was definitely the roughest, like the lowest point in my life was when COVID hit and everything like that. I feel like it was for everyone, but for me personally, so it started my junior year, and then in my senior year, you know, we had like kind of came back and we were on that like weird hybrid thing where you would do like online.
I've seen the damage of that. Yes.
Yes. Well, in that time, I was going through a dark point, and I was just missing a lot of like the Zoom and a lot of the classes and not doing a lot of the work, and a lot of things were just happening in my life. And at one point I had contemplated it, and I had, you know, attempted, and I had went and got help for it. I went to Skyline at the like the psychiatric ward that they have, and it was nice. I was there for about 2 weeks. It just kind of taught me a lot of like good experiences, and I'm glad that I went. But it was definitely, even being there away from home, it was just totally different because you were on the same routine every day.
Do you mind kind of walking me through what's a typical routine? I don't.
So like, you know, if you wanted to sleep in, definitely couldn't do that.
Okay. Definitely a regimen, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I remember correctly, we would wake up at like 7 each morning for breakfast. We would all line up and get like this like pre-made like lunch, you know, like elementary school breakfast on a tray with some like bread and stuff, and we would eat that, and then we would go and have like group therapy, and then we would have like individually we would all meet with like our separate like therapist that was like given to us, and then we would come back and do like just certain activities. Like we would do therapy with like music therapy. We would do therapy with like art, with like drawing or just like painting. And then we would also just kind of like, you know, have time to just like me and the other kids, we would just have time to like talk to each other and just, you know, kind of.
Well, I don't want to be too nosy, but did you feel like that was the best treatment? I mean, I've never been to that type of treatment, but I mean, do you look at that and go, oh, that's exactly what everybody needs because this is epidemic proportions? Or was it just a way to say, I went to treatment? Or I don't know how much you want to share. So
I honestly like can say that it's different for everybody.
Okay.
Not everybody is the same way where therapy or this and that will help them, you know. And just for me, like back kind of like with the loneliness thing, I didn't really talk to anyone, so I felt like super lonely. So it kind of led to that point of me getting so bad to the point of suicide. But it was definitely hard,
Right.
but I'm glad that I made it through it, and I'm here today.
Okay, well, good deal. Well, one thing I wanted to kind of explore, if you want to segue from that, is we talked a little bit about church. So, you know, a lot of these statistics that I see in here, your generation doesn't trust the church. Your generation doesn't trust the pastor. The largest kind of religion group in your generation is they call them the nuns. They don't personally believe in much of anything. They call themselves spiritual, but not religious. Well, you're just describing, I guess, the intellectual approach to dealing with suicide. some people argue that you're not going to find it without some spiritual connection too. For example, there's an organization in Nashville called Mercy Multiplied, where this individual years and years ago was called, and she created a whole ministry around taking care of young ladies that had teen pregnancy. Well, now it's expanded to cutting, suicidal attempts. In other words, it's run rampant in your generation, way beyond teen pregnancy to all these other suicidal things. And one of the reasons that she felt drawn to do it was because without a religion component, the success rate of the state was horrible. So, want to comment on that? I don't know.
Yeah.
From your perspective, now that you kind of said you've kind of gone back to church, did you go back because you felt like you needed that glue to overcome, or I don't know?
Definitely, that is part of it. Not only when I used to go, I mean, it was very helpful to me, but when I was going through these dark times in my life, like, not only did I didn't trust the people around me, but I just felt like that no matter like kind of what I was praying about wasn't being answered. Okay. But now I know that everything, like, God has a plan, it'll come in time. But at that time, It was just like hard for me. I didn't want to believe anything. I just wanted answers right then and there to try to find a solution.
Well, do you think the church has been equipped with that? I mean, once again, I'm not trying to identify a specific church or denomination, but, we're talking New South Christians, and we're talking about an epidemic of your generation, and you're being accused of, one of the articles I read this weekend said Generation Z is killing religion. So you're a young man that's sitting here saying that you went back to church to try to help yourself through a difficult time. Do you think the church is equipped for your generation and a problem of this epidemic proportions?
I honestly do. It all really just comes down to who is actually going to take the time to go to church and see the process through. Okay. Because a lot of people are just looking for that easy fix, like just quick and instant, because they want it to be over right then and there. But, it takes time, like kind of like with therapy. You got to talk about things. You got to work through them. If one solution doesn't work, you try that, you come back, you get another one, you work through it again. It's all a process that needs to be done. And a lot of people just aren't patient enough to sit there and listen to someone like pastor, or, even just sit there and pray. Right. They think they don't have the time for it, or they just don't want to. Okay. But I think it's a good thing to do.
Okay. But do you think the church is equipped for those people to help them make that connection so they can get that help, so they can avoid that tendency to maybe attempt suicide or something else?
Yeah, I really do think so. Like, especially with my church, we don't really like discriminate, with all the problems that you have in your life. With if you were an addict or anything, you can talk to our pastor, and we have like certain connections, and we can get you the help you need if you're still struggling. Right. So,
well, it's funny. I read an article the other day. I want you to comment on this. Do you know what Irish pubs are?
Yeah, it's just like they're bars down there, right?
But they're more community. In other words, you'll have kids, families, grandma, grandpa, whatever. So it doesn't have the same connotations as this. Well, this article argued if we want to reach Gen Z with all the different things going on, we should design it like an Irish pub. It's open to everybody. And then we don't worry about you, but then once you get in, we'll just shower you with kindness, love, and your behavior and belief will come in time. And the reason I say that is because I've had a lot of people sit across from me in this podcast, and when I ask the question, the LGBTQI question, how do you address that as a believer? But then you look at what the word says, and then you look at your generation, and the overwhelming majority think that people of the same sexual belief being allowed to marry is a good thing. Then you cross over into church. Well, how do you handle that? Is that a contradiction, or how do you deal with that in that accepting environment of the Irish pub?
It's definitely hard.
Pastor Fuqua, what's your answer?
It's definitely hard, especially with since I live with my grandparents. They're very they're very conservative old school type when it comes to that type of stuff. So whenever they hear about that type of stuff, or even talk to me about it, they want nothing to do with it.
Yes,
basically.
So they're going to burn in hell, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So how do you I'm not trying to put you in a bad situation.
No,
But
no.
this is the massive contradiction that a
Yeah.
lot of people have. You have this older generation. See, if you look at the church numbers, they're hemorrhaging.
Yeah.
If you're more left, liberal, young, tend to identify more, they're leaving the church in droves. The older people are actually leaving the church in droves. The numbers are dropping. I mean, it's amazing. And so then all of a sudden we have this place called Nashville. We got 100 new people landing every day. Then we have young people like you, that a different generational view. And then we sandwich in grandma. And how are we going to navigate this? I mean, how do you handle those kind of, I guess, contradictions?
I mean, that is honestly a very good question. It's going to be very hard to navigate those types of things. Luckily I don't have to deal with any of that, but honestly, me personally, I don't oppose it. I just think you have to find the right group, the right church, just someone that can work with you and accept you for who you are. Because a lot of times, a lot of people just want to be accepted. Because, I mean, nobody's, the same. We're not, we're all different people. Yeah. So, people can be really unique or, whatever. They just want to be accepted. And it's hard to find that support for them because sometimes they feel like they can't.
Well, let me ask you this then. This has popped in my head. One of the things we've come up with on here is, let's say you're a pastor locally and you start the Church of Caleb.
Okay.
How do you attract Generation Z? We're talking about the largest group are nuns that don't share a belief or call themselves spiritual but not religious. They're distrusting of church. They're distrusting of the pastor. So how do you draw these people in? I gave you the example of the Irish pub from the article, but how would you do it? How do you even reach them? I mean, do you put it out over social media, or do you go round them up? Or
that's really the only way you can get a lot of things out nowadays is just through social media. Because I'm pretty sure Crosspoint, the church that I go to, I think they have like an Instagram and like all that, and they post on it and they take videos and pictures and stuff. But they also, I mean, it's not just the location in Hendersonville. They also got one in Nashville, Murfreesboro, and like kind of just all around.
Yeah, I've seen the signs. So,
yeah.
But so just be accepting and let them in, and we'll deal with it kind of like the pub, get them in.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I saw was the first impression matters. You're looking for authentic. Mm-hmm. You want people that build community, etc. But you also want kindness. And there's been a lot of things written about that first encounter. For some of the people who have the podcast, has not gone well.
Yeah,
you want to react to that? I think
it's a big thing, especially like my pastor actually this past Sunday was talking about it. He had a guy come to church, and it was his first time going. Nobody knew him, but he was greeted with kindness as soon as he walked in. Right. Doesn't matter if people don't know him or not. I mean, we just want someone to greet us with kindness, so we're going to greet them with kindness. Right. And he didn't come back for like a few weeks, to try to test it out. And when he came back, people recognized him, remembered his name, went up, shook his hand, said, "How are you doing?" And it's just like that overwhelming love and support you get from people around you who also, can just share that experience with you. It's nice.
Yeah. And that first impression matters.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Hey, a couple other things. I know we've talked mainly about spiritual stuff, but I wanted to ask you a few other things. And this one, kind of from my personal experience, there was a huge revival up at Asbury University last spring.
Okay.
And it was massive. People from all over the world. It lasted for weeks, 24 hours a day. But this is what is really cool about it. It was led by your generation out of a musical praise and worship session at the beginning of this university's day. And they just kept playing and praising and playing and praising. And I woke up and I went, you know what? I'm going. So I probably shouldn't announce this, but I canceled my classes, took off and drove 4 hours and was a part of it. And I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like this. And so I get to my next question. Your generation, from everything I've read, wants to have a religious experience with God. Not just hear about God, but truly have a connection. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, now for me, personally, that I've started going back to church and
Go ahead.
started
Go
going
ahead.
back
I'm
to
listening.
church and everything.
We actually have to wrap up at 12:45.
Oh, I can do it pretty quick.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Are we going to edit this out, I assume?
yeah.
Okay.
All
That's
right,
cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll edit this out. So I'll
Okay.
just bounce back again. So anyway, back to what we were talking about. So people wanting a religious experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you believe that?
Yes. I definitely, I think honestly, just seeing other people so involved with God, and just they want to have a strong connection with them. It also helps us to stay motivated and
Oh, yeah.
brings us in too. Like, I think that's how, a lot of people, get gathered to church. You know, I mean, a lot of people may have doubts about it, but if you have a friend who's very big on it, and you end up going with him one time, and all the people there are loving and accepting, I mean, it's going to be a nice environment, something that you may not be used to.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, this is very personal. The place I was going to church at the time, so I went up to this revival. I had this amazing spiritual experience. It's really hard to put into words. You just had to have been
Yeah.
there. But it was all led by your generation. There were no older people. There were no sermons, no Bible quotes or anything. It was 24 hours a day for weeks and weeks. The people in front of me were from Brazil. The people in front of me from California. I mean, and there were literally tens of thousands of people descended. It was on Fox News, all the major networks, etc. And it's what I picture the end times being like before, in my faith, the Lord returns.
Yeah.
But when I shared it with people, and even people where I went to church and said, let's rent a van, let's all go, I'm on fire, everybody had something else to do. And I was like, okay, I read this stuff in the podcast and we want to have a religious experience. 4 hours up the road is one of the major revivals in the last 50 years. And I got a potluck dinner to do, or I've got to do this or that. And these are people that say they're on fire for God. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't understand.
I don't, people that do say that, they may say, you know, that they're on fire with God and God is such a big part of their life. And it may be to a certain extent, but when it comes to their personal lives and things they want to do, they're going to do those things over it. Some people just view going to church on Sunday like, oh yeah, if I go to church every Sunday, I'll get good in with the Lord. And just, but that's
so proximity will be the thing that gets you in. Huh?
Yeah, no, I feel like that's just not how it works. And a lot of people, I mean, show their different ways of supporting God through just good works, doing
Right.
good deeds for people,
Right.
And just everything like that. And I think that's honestly one of the most important things.
Right.
Just helping others, just because.
Well, most of the stuff I read goes back to, I want to build community. I want acceptance, people that are kind, have a true, relationship with God through service and things like that. And that seems to be the thing. All right, a couple things I'm going to share, and then we'll wrap this up.
All
I
right.
always like to end on positive or a good note. And maybe this is good and bad. So we talked about this, how much your generation is into social justice, kind of like the George Floyd, et cetera, being accepted of other points of view. So as far as that goes, also talks about you're more entrepreneurial as far as starting your own business. It doesn't seem like you trust the man, as we like to say in my generation, the corporation. You're what's called digital natives from the time of birth to now. You've been integrated with technology as far as that goes. You're socially conscious. You're very diverse. By 2026, Caucasians will make up the largest minority group in America, which means people of color will be the majority. You're actually fiscally, financially conservative. You want to save money, be responsible as far as that goes. And one last funny thing is you love spicy food.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was pretty hilarious.
yeah.
Any of those you want to address? Are these right? Is this correct? Is this
Yeah.
the good news?
Yeah, those are pretty spot on. Yeah, definitely with the spicy food. I love spicy food.
Okay. All right. So anyway, before we go, is there anything you'd like to share?
Just want to say thanks for having me on here. This was a really good experience, and
I more than appreciate it. I tell people that have been on here, and I think they listen to me. I'm sometimes wonder if they believe me. We did not meet by accident. I truly believe that. When you were over in the pickle building and you came over, I mean, just the interaction, so short, so brief. And then when you sat in my office, I just kept thinking, and I didn't know anything about you other than his last name was Fuquay. And I thought, there's something really sincere about this young man. And then when you shared, obviously talking about suicide, I thought, wow, I need to invite him. Every person I've had on this show, it's been the same encounter. So truly, it was definitely great. So anyway, thanks for being on. Let me go ahead and play this on the way out.
People get ready, there's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to it be Susan. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord.